Right, everyone, this is Charlie. You all know the man. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing all right, mate. Thanks for having me on. How you been?
Yeah, good man. It's good to see you back in the game. I was wondering what happened to you for a while there. Glad to see you doing all right.
Back in the game is a bit strong. I'm still way out of it, I must admit.
Back in the space, let's say.
Yeah, just having conversations at this point, just dipping my toe back in and kind of seeing day by day where it takes me. Because as everyone probably knows, my journey, but we'll go into it in more detail on this call. I've kind of done everything. It feels like, and now I'm doing nothing. It's been a strange last 6 months for sure. Very strange. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully giving an honest, truthful report of kind of the last 4 years, 5 years of my life in probably like a 20-30 minute stint. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, so for the uninitiated in the audience, tell us a bit about yourself. Like, who were you before you got into Amazon, and then how did you get into Amazon?
Yeah, taking it back a while. So pre-COVID, I worked at a finance brokerage in Bishop Stortford, but my primary sales area was London. So I was going into London 3-4 times a week and essentially trying to sell finance to photocopier salespeople, telecoms, office equipment, anything that kind of goes into an office that could be financed over a 3, 4, 5 year period. I was the guy for finance, essentially. So that was my previous career before COVID, or yeah, pre-COVID. And post-COVID, sort of March 2020, I stumbled across a group called Products for Profit, which I'm sure a lot of people in the Amazon space that have been around a while would know. I kind of thought it was a scam, to be honest, like everyone kind of does with these sort of things. I thought it was a scam, and I remember it really clearly talking to my mum, having a cigarette in the garden and saying to her, look, I'm on furlough. I've got hardly any money coming in from my finance brokerage 9 to 5. This thing I'd seen online by someone posting that they're going and buying hair clippers for 10 quid and then selling them for 40 quid on Facebook Marketplace or eBay. It sounds pretty scammy, but I feel like I want a piece of that because I've got nothing else on. I was on furlough for 3 months. So to be honest, when you got placed on furlough, you had no idea when you're going back, if you're going back, because there was large redundancies being made at my company.
It was a
So
weird time, wasn't it? During COVID, weird time.
yeah, very weird time. You kind of didn't know what was happening. And I kind of got over the initial phase of playing Call of Duty Warzone with the boys and my cows, and then realized I need to fix up and get something sorted really quickly. And I ended up joining Products for Profit and couldn't believe really what was going on. As soon as I joined the group, I went to B&M and I started buying these hair clippers, and people were turning up at my door giving me 40 quid for something I just paid 10 quid for. And I'm like, what is going on? All I need to do now in my head is go to more B&M stores and go to more Matalan stores and so on. So that kind of really kickstarted my selling journey because I first started on eBay, and then I felt pretty early in the COVID batch of people that started selling on Amazon. Obviously, I was never the first person that started selling on Amazon, but I felt I was pretty early into that phase of people going from eBay to Amazon. And I started to build up a number of people that were interested in what I was posting online because everyone was selling on eBay at the time. But I was posting selling on Amazon and my results and kind of figuring it out as I was going along. And yeah, kind of in a nutshell, really started to develop a bit of a following on social media, Twitter or X mainly. And one thing led to another. I started a reselling group, ATA, with my business partners, Ben Engage. And then a virtual assistant recruitment business, a spreadsheet that I created myself on Airtable. And I kind of turned into a bit of jack of all trades, master of none, to be honest. And that kind of gives you a bit about me, really.
You're the person that taught me that there's a big Amazon space on Twitter X. I was kind of oblivious. I never used Twitter because it just seemed like a vat of toxicity to me. But then to find out people actually use it for proper business and stuff, and hearing you say there was a big Amazon space in it, that was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought it was just a place for people to get mad at each other.
Yeah, it was funny because the people on Twitter that were selling on Amazon felt like the people on Facebook were nowhere near in terms of, let's say, expertise or skill level when it comes to Amazon because of the questions being asked on there. And I guess people on Twitter felt like they were the mature sellers. And it was funny because there was like this constant back and forth between those types of sellers on different platforms. And for me, Twitter was just a way of just speaking to people, to be honest, building up a following. And I mean, this is going to sound a bit crass, but trying to sell to them at the same time. And whilst I'm doing it, trying to make some money while building a following. And yeah, that's how I kind of got started with Twitter, really, just trying to build a following and showing people how to sell on Amazon.
Yeah, so I think if you lived in this day and age in business, especially if you're doing Amazon, and you had some sort of like moral annoyance with someone to try and monetize their audience, I think that's just naive. If anyone was put in the position, they would. And to me, if you're going to provide them actual value that helps them, why wouldn't you? Because, you know, this is your career, isn't it? This is your job. You've got a living, you've got bills to pay. As long as you're providing value, I don't see a problem with it personally.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the few unfortunately tarnish it for the many in certain aspects of Amazon. But listen, that's always going to happen. No matter what industry, no matter what you do, there's always going to be a few that try and scam people. That's just
Yeah.
ultimately what happens. But you kind of look here as 99% of the population are savvy. They do understand that there are people out there just for themselves, but there are others, the majority, that do want to help. And that's kind of how I've seen growing and monetizing the audience. It's not a bad thing. It's not like it should be frowned upon. It's actually a skill. Like, you're
Yeah.
trying to make money out of nothing, whether it's monetizing your audience or selling a product, kind of the same. You're making money in different ways, but you're ultimately getting money from both actions that you're doing. And I think at the start of selling on Amazon, people were much more susceptible to the idea of monetizing your audience. Like in 2020, everyone loved the idea. It was like everyone wanted you to build an audience. But then as it started to progress and it started to become like 2021, 22, 23, it was almost like it flipped on its head and no one wanted you to make money off anyone else. It was just kind of really bizarre.
There's a thing with people that run groups where I don't know if you've seen this, given that you've run multiple groups, I'm sure you have. But when you have a really active group and you have a lot of value to give, your audience often will actually beg you to make courses, beg you for products to help them improve their game. So to like reject your audience's requests, you know, because you're worried about upsetting some tosser that you're never going to meet, you know, it just doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yeah. And just to add to that, I think it's a blessing and a curse, but I've got what I feel in some aspects is a personality flaw where I take everything quite personally. And when I was growing my social media audience, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't like this big, massive influencer, but I had a few people that cared and wanted to listen about what I had to say. I started to realize that you're never going to please everyone.
Yeah.
And that was what I tried to do. I tried to please everyone and I wanted everyone to like what I'm saying. And sometimes I'd write these big, long Twitter posts about selling on Amazon that probably no one gave a fuck about, apart from a few people. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be this, that, and the other. And really, you just say what you want to say, get your message across, and stop thinking about it too seriously.
And the irony there is, if you are your authentic self, you're going to be divisive against people that don't like you, but you will eventually attract the people that do like you. So you're going to end up with the right crowd by being yourself, aren't you? But I used to have real big problems with people pleasing, but kind of went away as I got older. I realized I don't care about pleasing people I don't even respect, you know.
Yeah, I hear you, mate. Totally, I'm with you.
So you've taken a bit of a break. You happy to talk about what you've been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for context, over the 5 years or 4 and a bit years that I was kind of doing everything but nothing at the same time, um, I spread myself too thin. And I will always be honest and upfront. I made some decisions that now, on the face of it, looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't make, because ultimately I've learned from those lessons. But at the time, you don't know what's going to happen until you make those decisions. And
And you
so,
can't really be successful without taking risk either, right?
exactly. And I got stuck in this rut of just trying to almost build an empire that wasn't ready to be built yet. And that's going to sound quite crazy, people listening to this, but I've always got big goals and big aspirations. And I started to make some really, really, really good money off the back of sort of January 23. Some of the numbers that I was doing, it was scary numbers, and I was doing really well. And then I just decided that I was in this phase where I've cracked business and it's just going to exponentially grow from here. And I realized that the reason why it's growing is because I've got a skill and I'm trying to monetize it. I'm doing well at that. But what I failed to recognize was that I am the skill. I am the monetization of that, and people want to listen to me. And what happened was I tried to remove myself from everything.
You're the personal brand.
Exactly. I tried to build everything without me. And I feel like that was the biggest flaw in this whole entire thing is, firstly, I stopped selling on Amazon, which I never, ever, 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 ever should have done. And people tried to talk me out of it, but I was so headstrong in the fact that I can build the audience without Amazon. And that's just kind of the stupid things that you do sometimes when you believe your own hype.
I always really respected that you were upfront about that, actually.
Yeah.
Because you've already got the skill set and the experience, don't you? So the fact that you're, you know, to me, if you're running a community with all the experience, that's enough. And I always appreciate that you were upfront about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that point, and that's how I felt. Was literally what you said is how I felt it was the right reason to stop selling on Amazon. But there is a big price to pay for a lot of people that want to actually see the person they're listening to actually do the thing that they're paying them for. And I feel like that was something that I knew, and it's really obvious and it smacks you in the face, because ultimately you don't want to learn how to play football from someone that hasn't been a professional footballer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And goes for any other thing that you want to use that example for. And people didn't want to listen to me in the end, and it was switched off overnight. The moment I stopped selling on Amazon, it was like I felt the immediate switch off, and people didn't really engage on social media. The group that I had didn't really have many more subscribers come in, and it was just like the tap switched off. And I kind of knew that that would happen, but I didn't realize how drastic it would be. And if I was to go back, I would completely change that, and I would continue selling on Amazon until I figured out what I wanted to do next, because I was always honest and upfront. I never wanted to do it long term. It was just kind of something I did to start making money during furlough. And yeah, so then that led me to be stretched really thin across the board with what I was doing. Customers stopped coming to me. I had big problems with some of the actionables that I was doing for clients. It wasn't really working out too well. Some of the promises that I said I was going to do, unfortunately, I couldn't do in the end. And then before you know it, VAT bills come out of the woodworks that are large sums of money that I probably should have been more careful of as I was earning these large sums of money. And before you know it, you just get to a point where you say to yourself, enough's enough. I can't live like this. I'm going home to my girlfriend and I want to be there for her, and I want to understand how her day's been. But all I'm thinking about is, fuck, I've got to do X, Y, and Z right now because I've got 6 months left of money and I've got 11 staff members that I need to pay. They're counting on me. What do I do? And then you're just in war mode constantly. So yeah, I've taken a break, if you want to call it that. It's just a silly way of me saying I actually needed some cash in my bank account and I needed it quick to be able to help me live and get by. And I ended up taking a job with one of my managers that now owns his own finance brokerage.
Well, we do live in capitalism, unfortunately, don't we? So you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. And like I said, you learn from your lessons and mistakes, and it's just been a wild, wild, wild ride. Anyone that has sort of followed me over the last 4 or 5 years, they've seen it all, really.
Well, your message really resonates with me, especially with what you were just saying there, because you know I'm in a long-term relationship. We're probably going to start having kids soon, talking about marriage and everything like that. And I'm an obsessive, you know, I've got a background of addiction, so I've got very much addictive personality. And my addiction right now is success. I want to build an empire. As you said, I'm in the exact same frame of mind. And being present with your partner is something I try so hard to do, but particularly lately, there's been some missed date nights, and you haven't had that time through the day to catch up with your partner because you're just thinking all the time, aren't you? You're obsessively thinking about business and what you're going to do next and your strategy. It's a very tough balance between not letting your personal life fall apart whilst at the same time chasing greatness does require sacrifice. It's tricky.
Yeah. It's the price, unfortunately, that you got to pay for success. But I look at it slightly different now. And thankfully, my girlfriend's she's got a head on her shoulders and she's actually a sounding board for advice. And she gives good advice. She's not in the room right now, so she can't hear it. She's good. But she kind of has shown me a different way. Before I met her 2 years ago, I was in that growth phase. I've just come off the back of earning some really good, decent money, and everything just seemed to be going up. And then when I met her, I kind of started to make decisions that I probably shouldn't have made. The more she's kind of understood how I am, the more she's kind of said to me, like, great, time's on your side. We've got loads of time. We can take as long as you need to try and get your dreams, goals, aspirations fixed and sorted. And I think before I met her, I was so in this mindset that nothing else mattered apart from me earning 30, 40, 50 grand months. And that's all that I cared about. And you start to neglect some of your friends, your family. And I've kind of reined it in a little bit. And yeah, I've still got these goals. And I kind of will go on in a little bit about what I'm doing now, like as a continuation of kind of my business. I've still got those goals and aspirations, but they've changed slightly. I want to have kids. I don't want my kids to be growing up where I'm not around because I'm chasing the pound note. And that's what I was like before, really. Grafting like 12, 13, 14-hour days. And look what it got me. Didn't really get me where I wanted to go. I'm back at square one, if you like. And yeah, I've got a lot of life lessons that I've got to take out of it. But I've made a lot of mistakes. And you don't think clearly when you're in that phase. I'm convinced of it.
First of all, appreciate the transparency. I really love that you're being honest about it. Secondly, I think you're kind of posing what you've experienced as a bit of a failure, which I don't see it that way. I do see the lessons that you've learned along the way, the experience you have, the credibility and reputation you have. Like, people really love you in this space, or at least in the communities I'm in. You're seen as a really trustworthy, good source of information and a good person. So yeah, okay, maybe it didn't work out exactly how you planned, but as long as you don't stop, there's no such thing as failure. That's what I think. And if you needed to take a break, to reset, to get some money, to kind of align what your values are and what you want to do, I don't see that as a failure. I just see that as one of the chapters.
Yeah, mate, perfectly put. And I guess being transparent, I must admit, I do see it as a failure, but I also take it as a lesson. And the main reason why I see it as a failure is because I am working for someone else, which I said I would never, ever, ever, ever do, regardless of the circumstances. And I've had to go back because of the circumstances. But also the Christmas break that I've just had has given me a chance to put my brain back in that was on the side for 6 months. Because I went back into full-time employment in August. So I've been working there since August full-time. But now I've had the Christmas break to really think about what I want to do. I've got this surge of motivation that's come back into me. And it's like, right, Char, you've learned all these lessons. Let's start applying them in a sensible way and at a much, much, much slower pace. I think what I really, really, really wished that I did was take it a lot slower than I did. And because it gives you a chance to think, where you're constantly battling scenarios every day. You've got 4 or 5 different serious issues coming at you every day. How are you supposed to make the right decisions? Like, at least give yourself the ability to take a step back every day and go, right, I'll take it at a much slower pace, but I'll take all the facts and figures. Then I will know that I'm making the best judgment call that I can. And I don't think I had that sort of 2 years ago.
That feeling of urgency is something that I get as well, where you're like, you constantly think you're out of time, you need to do things now, now, now. I came from a career background where every single minute counted. In order to hit KPIs, we had to like literally every minute counted, particularly in my job. So I came from a background where I was like hyper organized, doing 1,000 things at once, making sure I always hit my own deadlines. I've been someone who manages my mental health with meditation for years. And I was meditating one day and it was like an epiphany where I was like, hold on a minute, you've got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
What are you rushing for?
Exactly that, mate. I think meditation, I've tried it. It doesn't work for me. I think my brain is too active, but it will help other people like yourself. I think what I've really thought about over the last couple of weeks certainly is about making good choices and good decisions. And I didn't see it like this before when I was running my businesses, but if I make one good choice a day, and it's the only choice that I make every day. I've made 365 good choices in a year, and I'm
Yeah.
happy with that. But just drill it down to something that simple. Whereas I probably didn't make 10 good choices in a year looking back at it, because you just don't give yourself that time, that level of commitment and understanding of the problems that you have.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think now I haven't got more time because I'm working 9 to 5, but it's given me a chance to put my brain to the side and really not think about too much pressure. And yeah, it is a sales job, and I work 9 to 5 like most people. And I'm now unfortunately having to try and do my side projects after work. And that's a bit of a stress or a bit of a pain, because obviously you've got limited time. You can't work till 1 o'clock in the morning. But it's just given me a chance to really just sit back and just relax and enjoy my life a little bit, and not just see life as this rat race.
$8 bill.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And I think I saw myself working before I started my businesses as being in the rat race. I really did. And when I was doing my businesses, I was in the rat race and I didn't even know it,
Yeah.
really and truly, because I'm working longer hours. Yeah, I'm earning great money, but I'm still working longer hours and I'm still working harder than I probably would have been if I was working a 9 to 5. And the last year of my business, before I have closed all of them down, which I have, or I'm in the process of closing down, I didn't take a salary the entire 12 months. I didn't take a single penny. And I was grafting for 12 months. It might as well just go and work at McDonald's.
That's me right now. No, literally, I haven't paid myself in over a year.
Yeah. And that's what it gets like. People don't see it like that. Yeah, I mean, not to try and force things down people's throats that listen to this, but sometimes it's not easy. And people sometimes look at other people in the space and think it's easy. But no one knew I didn't pay myself for 12 months. Everyone knew that I sold ATA, but that money's gone, never to be seen again. And I made bad decisions on what I did with that money. And yeah, it's you make decisions that you probably shouldn't make when everything's all systems go.
I will say one thing I'm very grateful of is I grew up in a very poor environment, poor household with a family who didn't have money. So I was never really taught the value in money. And I kind of had a naive outlook in money that people who chase money, they don't ever seem that happy to me. So I was kind of content in poverty. As soon as I realized the value money brings and how much it unlocks for you, particularly time, if you have more money, you do get more time. Not everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. But I'm really grateful I discovered that post my 20s, because I genuinely think I'd be dead. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd still be here if it was like that then.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think the one thing that I struggle with since being back working a 9 to 5 is just the autonomy. I really struggle with that. And I think the autonomy comes with feeling like you've got the time to yourself to make the decisions and choices that you want in your day. Like, for example, I have to go in at a specific time. Really simple, but I hate that. I hate
Yeah.
knowing that I've got to be in at a specific time at 9 o'clock. And if you're slightly late or you're going to be in at 9:03, I start to feel a bit of dread. I don't want that feeling. I never had that when I was working for myself, and
Yeah.
maybe that's because I'm back in this position now because
Yeah.
I weren't turning up on time. But you start to get your own comforts when you work for yourself, and it really is tough to reacclimatize.
Yep.
I mean, this is a really shit way of explaining it, but it's like being in the army and then having to come back into civilization. Really shit way of explaining it, but hopefully people get my point.
I think it's a valid analogy because you're never going to earn 40, 50 grand months in a job for someone else, are you? So when you have a taste of that kind of success and freedom, I can't imagine what that does to your mind coming back to a 9 till 5. It must be super challenging.
Really is. And I think I had a lot of experience for the 4 or 5 years that I was running different types of business models, and they're all different, even though it was to do with Amazon. One was recruitment, one was databases, the other one was running a consultancy business. So they're all different things, and I got a lot of experience to give. And how sometimes it comes across when you go back into work is you don't have those life experiences. It's kind of, you know your job, you know you need to turn up and you know you need to do your sales calls, but I've got plenty more to give than just ringing up people and selling something. And I feel like sometimes that's a struggle because you've got so many experiences of how to do this and how to do that, but sometimes your boss don't want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I wouldn't say struggle with, one thing I've ruminated on quite a lot is that I've always been a jack of all trades type person. I'm not a specialist in anything. I did my degree in computing and I barely passed, and I was surrounded by these like computer goblins who they just understood code like they understood speaking English, whereas I had to work 10 times harder just to get to where they were naturally. And what I was ruminating on was I really was thinking, should I specialize down because I have the capacity to do it? But the more I thought about it, the more I thought in the role of like a business owner and an entrepreneur, I actually think being quite good at many things is actually what you need to do. And I think that's why I love business so much because I'm very good at organizing lots of things at once. I'm very good at putting my hands in lots of pies. I have no problem with outsourcing a task that I know I'm not good at. I can be I can do okay video editing, but it takes a lot of time. And if I can pay someone else who's really good at it and free up my time, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of how I looked at running my businesses, and certainly the recruitment agency, CLS Academy. The thing that I really struggled with was the training aspect. The experience that I had of product sourcing was in my brain, but I really struggled to imprint it into my staff. That was the part I struggled with because I could not be on a training call 8 hours a day every single day for 2 weeks. I did that for the first year and it nearly, honestly, my brain nearly exploded. So the way that I tried to handle that was I tried to instill my experience into the second, the third, the fourth person that was the most experienced that I saw in the business. And sometimes you can look at business and say, I just know that I'm good at this one thing and I'm going to stick at it. And I do believe that that is true, but you also have to have an aspect of experience across everything. And I guess I'm running away with my thoughts here, but one thing that I would like to add to what you said is, if you know that you are the money earner in the business, let's say you're in sales and you're the person that's getting the income in for the business, do not change that. Certainly until you find someone that's better than you at doing it. Because what I tried to do, which I was saying earlier, was replace me in doing the training. And that was the one big mistake that I did.
There's only one Charlie Swarkins.
I wish, mate, I wish. Just, yeah, it's whatever that might be. If it's product sourcing for your Amazon business, instead of employing a VA like everyone does at some point, if you are amazing at it, don't change it. Figure out a way of getting everything else solved that you don't have to do. Get everyone else to do the admin, the chasing of invoices, and you just focus on actually doing the thing that you're amazing at, which is product sourcing. Or vice versa, if you're not very good at product sourcing, but my God, you can code a bot that pulls through stuff, focus on doing that instead of you manually sourcing. There's lots of different ways, but yeah.
I'm a little conflicted with this kind of mentality because I think you are right, but I keep thinking, guys like James Sinclair, he's not going to be working at the nurseries he runs. Jeff Bezos isn't going to be working on menial tasks at Amazon. If you're going to be a properly successful CEO, entrepreneur, whatever, you should always be working on the business, not in the business. And developing a good team is one thing that sets good businesses from great businesses. But again, I think you are correct, because finding great people is incredibly hard. And when you let go of the reins a bit, especially with product sourcing or whatever it is you're doing, you do start to see the cracks form in your own business. And I struggle with that, because I'm constantly trying to work on the business, but I can see when I'm doing that, some of my team members are missing stuff that I would never miss. It's very tricky.
Yeah, I think the way I see it is you've got to make peace that if you excel at that one thing that you want to outsource eventually, if it's product sourcing, let's say, for example, you excel at spending on products in the UK for your Amazon business and your spend is 50 grand a month. Let's just use that arbitrary number. But let's imagine that now you want to outsource that to someone that is half as good as you. So they spend 25 grand a month. You've got to get comfortable with that's the price that you pay unless you find someone that far exceeds what your skill set is in that product sourcing area. And I think there's two choices. You've got to get comfortable with those numbers being lower so that you get a better all-rounded life, that you can go out and actually enjoy the world instead of sitting in front of your desk all day. Or you go out and pay someone top dollar, whatever it is that it takes for them to come over to your business and do that. And now you've got the same numbers that you were doing before. Yes, you've had to pay more, but that's the price you pay. And I think people really struggle with that decision. They struggle to let go and make the 25 grand a month, but have a better life. But they also don't want to pay the top dollar to employ someone to be as good as you. Like, people don't really know their true value. And I think, yes, you're spending 50 grand and that is amazing, but you need to realize in order to get more out of your life, you've got to separate yourself from that skill and you've got to pay someone to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to be done as good as you. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm really into educating myself by reading from the stories of people who've already succeeded. So I love reading Hormozy. I love reading anything Bill Gates recommends. I love reading that. And Hormozy was saying in one of his in $100 million leads, the day he realized he should pay really good money for proper experts in their field, that was where his businesses truly exploded, because he let go of the reins. He accepted that some people can do it better than him, and he invested really good money finding the right talent. I haven't gotten to that section of my career yet, but I can see that working, because much like yourself, in my teams previously, I've taken on people who are brand new to the industry, and the time it takes to train people, especially those who might not be as quick on the ball as you are, is challenging. And then you could invest 2 to 3 months into someone who doesn't end up working, and you have to let them go. Or you could invest a lot of time into someone who you find out is actually doing dodgy stuff in the background, which is what happened in my case. And yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough, because when you're new to business, you don't have the capital to pay someone who's really good at their role, and you have to pay the cost of time.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you've just said there. And to add to it, when you're new in business and you want to scale, and let's imagine that you want to employ a virtual assistant to take over your product sourcing, if you're not prepared to pay top dollar and you can't afford, okay, let's put it two ways. You're either not prepared to pay top dollar, or you can't afford to pay the top dollar to get someone in to actually be amazing at product sourcing, then don't do it at all. Carry on doing it until you make that decision that you can do either one of those choices, because otherwise you're going to go into it with a different outlook on what your goals and expectations are versus the person actually doing it. The person you employ might not have the skill set, but you're just trying to chicken wing them into doing something that you think they're going to be good at, and you're still paying them small amounts of money in comparison to what you actually do with your spend.
Yeah. I think having an entrepreneur's brain, I think, is very specific as well, isn't it? Not everyone is cut out for this kind of work. Not everyone's brains work that way. I was actually over Christmas, I was catching up with family members who I haven't seen in years. And my cousin works for this very successful female business owner. And I feel terrible because I can't remember her name. But she has a book in specifically training your employees to be more entrepreneurial, because stuff that's really obvious to you and I about the bigger picture in what you're doing, someone who is just doing a job, they're never going to think about that kind of thing. There's a skill to it. And I was really fascinated hearing about this lady's journey and what she earns crazy good money paying businesses to teach them how to teach their staff to be entrepreneurial. And I was thinking, when I got the money, I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a psychology thing, right? Because what is someone's number paid monthly or annually to make them care about your business? Like, genuinely, like, it could be someone in the Philippines or it could be someone in the UK that works on your business. What is their number? And this is the job of a business owner to figure out what is their number that makes their brain tick, and subconsciously now they're more interested. That's a really simple concept, but how much do I need to pay you for you to really, really take the reins of this business and help me do exactly what I'm trying to achieve? What is that number? Is it 1,500 quid? Is it 2 grand, 2,500? Because everyone, not everyone, that's pigeonholing people, but I feel a large majority of people that I've had the experience to either manage or talk to, everyone's got a number. Let's imagine that your expectations are you want to get paid 5 grand a month. I'm just using that number as an example, but you're only getting paid 2 grand a month. Are you really going to be that bothered about what the business owner is doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, look, truthfully, let's put it that way. Whereas if they say, okay, Charlie, okay, Sean, we've noticed that we really need to get some motivation. I'm really stupid way of saying it, but what if we pay you 5 grand? Are you going to be more interested now? Are you going to turn up every day for work? Are you going to turn up on time? Are you going to take your lunch break? Are you not going to take your lunch break? All of these small decisions now, you start to think more as an employee or as an individual, and you go, I'm now switched on. Someone's paying me 5 grand a month. I actually now care more about my work, weirdly enough, than I did when I was getting paid 2 grand a month. And I think the business owner's job is to spot that and spot that quickly, because the person that is working on 2 grand a month that wants 5, they're never going to really do much for your business because they resent the fact that they're turning up every day and working for you. Whereas if you find and match the person's expectations, and if you're paying someone 5 grand a month and they want 5, chances are they'll do an amazing job and they'll actually work those extra hours for you, Sean. They'll come in before you're even in work. Like, they'll beat you to work. They'll do the things that you don't want to do sometimes because they're getting paid for it. And that's part of being a business owner, isn't it? You have to figure those things out.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I realized about myself that isn't a true reflection of other people is that I had to work from the age of like 11. You know, I had a paper round very early, grew up in the countryside where, it was safe for kids to go off by themselves. And I was very much taught that if you're going to do any job, do it well. And every job I've ever had, even if I didn't like it, I've thrown myself into it. I was the fastest checkout scanner at Tesco's. Had the highest KPIs at my tech support job. My teams performed the best in my managerial jobs because I really do throw myself in. And I realized hiring other people, not everyone has that mentality. A lot of people just want to coast.
Yeah. People are, I'm just going to use this as an example. I hope this is a good one, but let's imagine that you are a stay-at-home mum and you've got 3 hours in the day to kill because your kids are now off at school. You've dropped them off at nursery or you've dropped them off at school and you've got 3 hours to kill. Those 3 hours are for them to just earn the money and keep themselves occupied, really and truly. I mean, not everyone, but the majority of people I should expect those 3 hours to try and kill some time and earn a bit of money for the household income. They're not going to pull up trees for you in those 3 hours. And that's the understanding that you need as a business owner, is to realize that not everyone's going to be as invested as you are in your own business. How could they be when you pay them 10% of the 100% that you take?
Yeah.
So it's just trying to understand that and figure out what is someone's number really. That's how I tried to do it anyway.
I had to rein myself in at one point because my main employee, my main VA Janie, who I trust completely, she's really passionate, really great at what she does. We took on a few extra members in the team who ended up not working out. But when we've got like deadlines coming up, we've got loads of big goals. I'm saying, right, you guys mind doing any overtime over the weekend? Because in my mind, I'm really obsessive towards this goal. You know, a lot of people in the Philippines are religious, Catholic background. They like to go to church on Sundays. They like to spend time with their weekends. And I've always cared really, as a manager, I cared about this a lot. I care about it even more as an employer. I really want my employees and my team's well-being to be a top priority. At the end of the day, you're only alive once, and I don't want to go out with a pile of money having made people miserable around me. And my employee said to one of the new guys joining the team, tongue in cheek, that, oh yeah, Sean's a workaholic. And it made me realize, I was like, don't ask them to do overtime on weekends, because if this was me working a job and it was a Monday, Friday, I'd hate to be asked that. So I was like, yeah, don't do that. I understand that I'm obsessed, but that doesn't mean I have to push that on other people.
Yeah, and I think it's an easy thing to forget, right? But it's something that's really important is simply you're the business owner and you are paid to be the most invested in that business. It's got your name on it, you're the director, the buck stops with you. So you have to be that invested more than anyone else. I would be crazy if I thought anyone else was more invested in my business than I am. um, so yeah, that's how I see things.
So tell me a bit about aftermarket arbitrage. How did you get into? Were you one of the founders of that, or
So aftermarket arbitrage was another group. It was all things arbitrage. Yeah,
all things arbitrage? Apologies.
that's it. I'd love to be part of that as well, to be honest. But so
Yeah, well, sorry, it's A to A, isn't it?
that's it. Yeah, it came about because I started to have a bit of a following. With initially, I was called Charlie the Lego Man. Really shit name, but it stuck. It said exactly what I was doing. I was trying to teach people. Rather than teach, actually, I just naively was just showing them what I was doing with buying and selling Lego really early on in like 2020. And that started to get traction. I started to get people asking me if they could pay me for the leads that I was getting, that I was sourcing for myself with the Lego. And when one person asking you turns into 10 people asking you in a month, you sort of think to yourself, there's an angle here. And that sort of led into me starting a group. And I think I charged £10 a month. It wasn't anything drastic. But that £10 ended up being, I got 75 members in before I then converted to ATA. So 750 quid, if my maths is correct, in just additional income, doing exactly what I was doing anyway. And I could have just put that straight into Amazon and buy more Legos. So that kind of led to one thing. And I then realized that why not do it for the entire space of Amazon rather than just buying and selling Lego and telling people what Lego sets I'm buying? Why don't I do it for any other product that I find? So I spoke to someone that I knew in Products of Profit, and he started to build a big following on social media, which was Ben. And I asked him, I just hit him up and said, are you interested? There's a space here that should be filled, and I felt I could do it better than Products of Profit. It's just me being truthful. I felt like them running it on Telegram rather than Discord was a bad idea. And so that was one thing I thought I could change to make it much clearer with the channels. And that's what I decided to do. Spoke to Ben and he said, yeah, let's crack on. And before you know it, a couple of years later, it grew to 700 members. I think the top cap that we got to, 700 paying members.
Nice.
Which was good. And then we started the US server, and that just fell on its ass. Because really now, in hindsight, it's really obvious, but no American wants to listen to a UK guy or a couple of UK guys telling them how to sell on Amazon US when we don't even live in the country. Granted, you can set up an LLC offshore, because I'd done it and I set up my own Amazon store, but by and large, they don't care what you got to say. You don't live in the same country, and I'm not trying to put words into people's mouths over in the US, but that's just truly how I think I was perceived, and us guys as the owners were perceived. It really fell flat on its face. We was given a lot of value that the members that were a part of it said was amazing, and they felt like they were getting information that no other groups were giving them, but it just really never went anywhere, and we ended up closing that down probably in the first 6 to 9 months.
I'm making notes, by the way, because I've got follow-up questions to ask you.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, so the group ATA, I mean, it made me and the other guys a very good living, really good income that we was getting from it. And certainly I tried to give as much as I could in that group. And sometimes I think I gave too much, because I would be on Discord at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to find products and putting them in there, and it just got a little bit too much. And I said to the guys, Ben engaged, look, I'm out, I can't do this anymore. It's taken enough of my brain power, and I want to go and do something else. And that's kind of how it stopped, really.
Do you know one thing I noticed about you when I discovered you with Easy Arbitrage, and do you know one thing I noticed about you that is very common with European guys I see?
What's that?
5 p.m. hard to get hold of you. To me, it was like you had a very clear work schedule, and then past that time you were out. And it's like every European guy I speak to, 5 o'clock he's gone. And for me, I'm in that phase of being on until late at night answering questions. But I really like that people are firm with their boundaries. If you're not happy in your life and you want to set a boundary because you want to go spend time with your missus, or you just want to take a break and not be working all the time, I really respect that, especially with these European guys. I'm just not there, I'm still working super late. I'm still waking up early to then work late.
I think it comes from learning, really, because
Experience.
experience. When I started ATA, literally you could ask me a question at 1 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I will do my best, even if I'm asleep. I'll wake up, sort of thing. I know that's a joke, but I'll answer as soon as I possibly can. And the more and more you do that, the more and more you kind of think, I should be paid more for this. Like, genuinely, truthfully, hand on my heart, I should be paid more for doing this, because yeah, you're paying £69 a month and you feel like hopefully you're getting value, but I'm not your personal butler.
Yeah.
And that's how it felt the group was becoming. It felt a little bit more like a chore towards the end, where everyone just felt like they could ask me a question no matter what time of the day it was, and then I would get double or triple messaged if I didn't reply within 20 minutes. And in the end, I started to realize that, whoa, I can't do this no more. I've got to put my boundaries up. And once it comes to 5:30, that's it. I can't message you back until the following day. Don't get me wrong. If there was something that I could answer within 30 seconds, you'll probably find after dinner or something, I'd reply. But if it's something that requires brain power, after a certain point now, I switch off, and you'll be hearing from me the next day at 9 a.m.
Well, I mean, like from a sustainability standpoint, that is probably a lot more sustainable, right? Because I've watched streamers, I've watched gamers on YouTube who stream, and it's just obviously completely different business model, but it's the same concept, that they end up resenting the games that they loved to begin with, because their audience expects them to play it for the next 5 years without any deviation to anything else. And you've almost got to compartmentalize work with your normal life, because otherwise you will end up hating what you do. And I don't think any of us are trying to build a job for ourselves that we force ourselves to hate doing it too much.
Yeah. And I think you've got to always, at all possible times, do your best not to make your business become more of a job. You want it to actually be something that you love, and it can be self-inflicted. You can actually resent the thing that you're doing purely based on your actions. And
Yeah.
if you don't set boundaries and clear boundaries at that, people will take the piss and they will take advantage of that. And I've been there, I've done it. I've had people literally expect me to answer their question within a minute of them sending it. And it's like, I'm with my missus, or I'm with my mum. Like, I will reply to you when I can, and you have to set
Yeah.
those clear boundaries. And for you running the group now, Seller Smart, and just recently announcing that you're taking over and merging with Sam, Easy arbitrage. Well done, by the way.
Thank you.
You have to have those boundaries. If you don't, then you just end up making a job for yourself and being a
Yeah.
customer services representative of SellerSmart.
Yeah. Well, I learned early on being a manager. Well, maybe not too early. I probably took too long to learn it. But I actually got to a point where I wasn't going to allow people to take an inch because they would always end up expecting a mile afterwards. So you realize it's just part of human psychology, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you give people a little bit too much and then all of a sudden they feel like they own you or they deserve it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way I'm experiencing that with my 9 to 5 job at the moment is you've got a new start business that wants 50 grand's worth of finance, right? Hardly any bank or underwriter is going to want to do that deal. But let's imagine that we did get to 50 grand. The next conversation that I have with that person, I've managed to get 50 grand, they're going to say, oh, I want another machine. Can you make it 55? And then it goes up and it goes up and it goes up. And they just throw more and more and more, not realizing that what you've got is the max. That's what you have to play with. But people will just want to take advantage. It's just like you said, it's just nature. And you've got to try and do your best to put boundaries in as a business owner. And if you don't, it'll bite you on the back.
Yeah. I don't even see it as like a negative towards any people. I think again, literally what we just said, I think it's just human nature. I think we're always looking to, it's like a survival trait, isn't it? You're always looking to see what you can get because resources might dry up one day. You
Yeah,
just never know what's going to happen.
exactly, mate. Exactly.
So, Gage and Ben, you left them on good terms from 8A.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I'll be honest and upfront. I haven't spoken to them in a long time, to be honest. But
I've heard
um,
many rumors in the industry about why you left, so it's nice to hear from your voice. It was just like, no, it's just done.
yeah, it was just done. There was a few things going on social media that people were talking about Ben and talking about Gage, but I got nothing bad to say about them. Like when I was a business owner, and we had some great times. Like I would catch up with them, I'd meet with them. Never ever was it left in bad blood.
I was just going to say, I've spoken to Gage a couple of times. He seems like a really nice guy to me.
Gage is so switched on. He's the most genius 21-year-old I think I've ever come across in my life.
When he told me his age, I was like, damn, wish I was that switched on at that age.
Exactly. The first conversation I had with him was when we was asking him to come on board and do some stock monitors for ATA because me and Ben didn't have any coding background. And the conversation that I had with him, I was like, we got to pay this guy whatever we can to do it because he is a genius. And we had some great times and we earned a lot of money together, but I just had enough. They wanted to go one way with their prep center, and I don't think we properly had the conversation to say, look, we're both going in different directions. But it didn't need to be. I had enough, and I didn't want to sustain that group anymore. I didn't want to do that, and I wanted to go on my own path. And that was it, really. That was the real decision. If anyone thought different, then unfortunately you're wrong. It was just
Nice. Sorry, go on.
yeah, I was going to say it was just purely based on me saying I've had enough, and they said, "Okay, great, thank you very much."
Yeah. Yeah, again, because I was never in the Twitter space, I didn't see any of like the controversies going around. But one way I actually started chatting with Sam Lav is because I saw he was pushing back against a lot of these guys who were trying to scam people. I think if you're monetizing your audience, if you're running a paid Discord and you're providing good value that's honest, fair play to you. You know, you earn your bread. But I agree with Sam, and I know I agree with you as well. You shouldn't take advantage of people. You shouldn't rip people off. You shouldn't scam people. You shouldn't be teaching people how to scam as well. Like that's another one. I was like, you learn, don't you, in business? You meet a lot of people who they'll do whatever it takes to earn money, and I'm just not about that life.
I think the way I look at things like mentorship and high prices or charging people thousands and thousands for mentorship, I think if you truly believe that you're overcharging for something, then in the back of your head, that's always going to stick with you. I know if I sell a finance contract to someone at my 9 to 5, if I sell it for 10 grand and really and truly it's probably worth 7 grand, I know, yeah, I'm making loads more profit, but I know I'm probably doing the customer out of what I really should be doing. And the same goes for mentorship prices, right? If I'm charging £600 for 6 hours, I'm probably going to give the same amount of advice than someone charging $3,000. That's a fact. I know it because I've seen it. I've been part of it. There's only so much advice that you can give before now it just starts to become a little bit more pricey than you probably should be charging, and certainly for new people. And I agree, there are loads and loads of dark tactics going on in the Amazon space, or certainly was when I was part of it, where you had TikTok sellers claiming that they're making £1 million turnover a month, and then they're charging 10 grand for a mentorship to new sellers. And like, selling the dream that way, you should never ever do that. And I'll go back to the point that you made earlier about, you said, hopefully this is true amongst everyone that's listening to this, but you felt like in the industry, certainly the Amazon space, that I'm quite trustworthy. That's one thing that I set out to do when I was trying to build and grow the social media, was if I feel like I'm doing someone over, this one person turns into 10 and then 20 and then 30, and before you know it, everyone thinks that I'm doing them over.
Yeah.
And that's the one concept that I was true to myself with when I started. I don't know anyone, and I would gladly put my name on the line here, I don't know anyone that would say that I done them out of money in the entire time. Not one single person. If they do, fair enough. I hold my hands up. If that's how they feel, that's how they feel. But if you want to make a name for yourself, you have to be trustworthy.
Yeah, 100%. Your reputation is worth so much more, isn't it?
Exactly. Reputation is everything. And you might end up losing a lot more money than you gain by having a bad reputation. And thankfully, hopefully, that's still something that I kept intact when I left.
Yeah, so I've had periods in my life during uni. For 3 months, I survived on £5 a month for 3 months in a row. And yeah, it was rough, man. I got to a point where I didn't eat food for like 4 days. So it was like I was fasting, only when it's not optional, it's not fun. And because of experiences like that, man, if I ripped people out of their money now, I wouldn't be able to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, life's already hard. I want to go out having made this world a better place. Just I don't understand the mentality of people taking everything they can from people who probably don't have enough anyway.
It's short-term mentality. It really is. People that are doing this to others, really in their mind, as far as I think I understand it, really in their minds, they're thinking they're not going to be here for much longer. Not in terms of dying or anything like that, but they believe they're only going to be doing this for a short term, and then they're on to the next thing. And I think that short-term mentality for them is, I can smash this and scam people of 100 grand, and then I can roll that 100 grand into my next project.
Right.
Whereas if you think about it long term, if it really is something that you want to be doing long term, 5, 10, 15 years, the last thing on your mind is trying to make a bad reputation for yourself. And
Yeah.
because like, from a vanity perspective, you want people to like you. You want everyone to think that you're doing a great job. You don't want to be known as a scammer. Well, I don't anyway, and I'm sure you don't.
No, so I had a conversation. So I come from like my friendship background. They're all fairly like left wing, a kind of socialist value types. Although I don't agree with all that stuff, I still love them dearly. And I had a conversation when I was just getting into business and just getting into Amazon, where one of my mates said, "Oh, if these guys are making such good money selling, why would they need to sell a course?" And I remember like that statement comes from such profound ignorance, because yes, selling on Amazon can make you crap loads of money, but how fulfilling is it really? And like doing things like spreading your experience with a course, the margins are way better. It's really fulfilling to actually change people's lives and actually help people. So to me, I was like, the two don't take each other away from each other. So you can still sell on Amazon and sell a course, but selling on a course and helping people is so much more fulfilling than, flipping air fryers on eBay and Amazon,
I think I agree with you, and I think two things can be true on this. You can be a great Amazon seller and you can be a great coach. I think what people truly think in the industry, or when I was involved, is you've got to be one or the other. You can't be both. And I think something that I tried to do when I was coaching people, certainly from a product research perspective, is don't leave anything unturned. Like, go into it and give your all and explain everything in real big detail. And sometimes I talk too much and I go into too much detail about something, but it's only because I want to give that person value for money. If you speak to anyone that's been coached by me, they will always, always, always say, I paid Charlie for an hour, but he gave me 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Always. I would never leave. As soon as it gets to 60, I would never go, right, thank you, goodbye. You've just paid me £100 for this hour. I'm off now. Thank you very much.
I can
Give
attest to that
value.
because we've had those calls, and you do extend.
Exactly. And that's the way to make a good reputation in the industry. If you do that enough and do that at scale for many people in an industry that you're in, I promise you, you'll have a good reputation and people will trust you. And because I've been on those calls, I've paid someone a mentorship fee that was just insane. And I felt like, I mean, he was walking around eating his dinner, like, while, like, he's not even at the computer. And I'm thinking, I've just paid you a large sum of money and you can't even look at me because you're too busy making your dinner. Like, it's just little things like that people just end up switching off and think to you, like, if you're paying that much money, you want to get value for money. And if you don't, then you start talking about it, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm the same. I've spent thousands on courses, and this is something I've always found odd about this, like distaste that a lot of people have for people who sell courses. People spend, what is it, like 35 grand to go to uni to hopefully end up getting a job. How is getting a course that helps you make money any different? Like, you're paying for education. The problem is that there's a lot of scammers out there. That's totally true. I completely understand that's not okay, but legitimate courses that help people make money, I invest in that because I love investing in myself. I am not someone who cares so much about flashy cars. I really care about learning the skills that I can make it in any environment. And I don't just mean that in business. I mean, I've done first aid courses, mental health emergency courses. I've done business courses. I've done a course in Excel that probably would bore most people to death, but it's a skill that's helped me throughout my career.
Yeah, mate, I agree. The skills are really what gets you through life. It's not the money that you earn on that day, it's the skill that you take to make that money. Because you can spend £1 and that's gone. But if you've got a skill that continuously makes those pounds, that's where the value is. And
Do you know who James Smith is?
is he the PT, the personal trainer?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he did a video recently. So he's pivoted recently where he's kind of abandoned his main social media channel because in his words, he cultivated a subpar audience. He tried to get famous, but then he got a bunch of people that don't care about him or don't care about his interests. So now he started a second business channel, which I love watching. And good Lord, I've forgotten why I even said that. What were we talking about?
Basically reciprocating skills. So if you had a skill that could make you £1, you'll be able to reciprocate that constantly to make more money instead of just taking the pound and running.
Yeah,
How I
thank you.
understand.
That was exactly it. He made a point which I think is so true. Like, a lot of people's idea of making it, is that a monetary value, or is that you learning the ability that you can generate money whenever you want? And I think that's so true. It's so much more effective to teach a man to fish than give him an entire boatload of fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The feeling that you get, I remember it so clearly. The feeling that I got realizing that with Amazon specifically, when I realized that it will just now take me to spend more money to increase how much money I earn now, because I felt like I had the initial skill and I understand the basics of selling on Amazon. I know how to find more products. The moment that you realize that now all you need to do is just do more of it, that feeling that you get is unbelievable because you're like, for once in my life, I've actually cracked something that is actually going to generate me cash. And yeah, I mean, I wish I could bottle that feeling up and just have it whenever I want.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back to what you're saying. It puts into perspective how tough it must be now to go back to working for someone else, because that's a hell of a feeling, isn't it? That I compare this in our previous videos quite a lot, but to me, it's the exact same feeling you get when you're 17 and you get your first car and you've never had that freedom before. That's exactly how it felt to me.
Yeah, mate, that's a really good way of putting it. It's going on the first lad's holiday without having your parents there or
Yeah.
whatever other example you could give. That feeling is it's a sense of freedom, isn't it, really? And yeah, business is a funny old thing, and hopefully I get back on track and learn from the lessons of the last 5 years and do something that I really enjoy, which I know the next thing that I will do will be something that I really do enjoy, and I will excel at it, and I'll put my mind and everything that I can into that business idea. But for now, I'm just taking it easy and just kind of taking every day as it comes and just enjoying life again, really, with my missus, with my family, with my friends, which, to be honest, being a part of a business that was doing large sums of money at certain points, you kind of neglect and you just forget all of that.
So on that note, what's happening with inventory, pal?
Yeah, good question. So it's something that I will be re-releasing. I've got a lot more experience and skill creating Airtable databases, because something that I've been doing on the side is creating private or custom databases for individuals, be it a prep center or a sneaker reseller that has a Shopify website. And I've been trying to make custom databases and bringing in all of their business, whether it's they have 25 Google Sheets with 25 staff members using those Google Sheets and building them into one so that everyone works off of one dashboard. That's just a few examples, or one example of what I've been doing. And that's something that I've got experience in. First, I created Inventory Pal, and then now I've got the experience to create the private or custom databases. And that's something that I'll continue to do moving forward, because I feel I'm very good at it and it's something that I enjoy doing. To answer your point about Inventory Power, once I finish the current job that I've got on with my private client, I will focus my attention on redeveloping Inventory Power into something that would be much better.
No, very cool.
So that's my plans for the future, and work my 9 to 5 as well.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so two quick questions just before we finish up. What is the most frivolous, vanity-driven purchase you've ever made with all your nice income that you were making?
Frivolous vanity purchase. Jesus Christ. Do you know what? It's going to be, this will make you laugh, or I hope it will. It's these. It's these, because I've got Charlie FBA written on one of the ears. And I remember I was doing a tax return and I was like, I've got this cash. Let's just spend it. I thought, well, I need a pair of headphones. Went online, looked at Apple, paid 500 quid, got Charlie FBA written on the side, and I've been using them ever since. I think that's one of, really and truly, I probably should have just bought a £100 pair of headphones. But
Well,
yeah,
it's
that's
funny you say that, because I said to my partner, I'm not driven by materialistic stuff, but my Bose Quiet Comfort Series 2 headphones, if I lost everything in a fire, as long as I had those headphones, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think with these, they've got me by, but I think there's probably many other headsets out there that I probably should have bought over these. But the fact that they cost 500 quid, I was like, yeah, let's just do it. And that's kind of a stupid purchase, and kind of gives you a snippet into my mindset at the time when I bought these.
Well, I've got a mate who blasted his inheritance in 3 months on Peruvian marching powder, so believe me, 500 quid headphones is not too bad.
Yeah, now I don't feel too bad. Yeah. But the one thing, actually, just speaking about, I think you mentioned about addiction and something you've always struggled with. I think it's quite a sensitive subject, but an important one. I'm the same. I've always struggled with addiction. I was a big gambler. I used to love spending and wasting my money on anything related to football. And I was just completely broke when I was gambling. And then it went from gambling, then it went to drinking. And I've just, yesterday was my 2-year sober period. So yesterday was, I made it to 2 years being sober, no drink. And for anyone that kind of is listening, and I feel like when you're a business owner, or anyone in life, actually, you don't even need to be a business owner, but sometimes people just hide things, or you end up drinking a lot more, taking more drugs. I promise you, it's such a release of realizing that you've done something for yourself by stopping drinking. And when you realize that you can remove yourself away from an addiction, the world's so much easier to navigate. And I think you can probably agree with me on that. The moment you realize you've done something for yourself, forget the money, forget the business. If you know that you have an addiction, but you've removed yourself from it, that's a far better experience than running a business in my mind. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to say that.
Congratulations. 2 years is a really good accomplishment. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I was drinking a lot. What? I was
Right,
drinking a lot.
I'm right there with you. I'm half Irish, half English, and I always say the Irishman in me likes to drink, and the Englishman likes to drink too much.
Yeah, that's good. I might steal that, even though I'm not Irish, but it sounds good.
Yeah, so on New Year's, I got to 8 years sober. It's been quite a while for me, but I was like, with New Year's, I went around friends who are still very much in that space. And it was quite I've changed a lot since becoming self-employed. I've changed a lot. So I'm about to turn 33. I'm not in my early 20s anymore. And yeah, it was a nice reminder of what I've escaped from. And I'm glad it makes my friends happy. And, if you drink or do anything else, fair play to you. It's your life. You make your decisions. But for me, the life I had became so much more saturated in color when I got sober. And it took a long time because it's culturally ingrained in the UK to drink, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's if anyone's watching and you're struggling with that, believe me, you're not alone. Life does get better. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. And again, seriously, congratulations on the 2 years.
Thank you. You too, mate. 8 years is a long time.
There's a point in my life where I thought it was impossible to get sober. So again, like I say to anyone who's listening who might have that problem, if you're thinking that way, believe me, I was, and I got through it, and life is great.
Yeah.
The other question I wanted to ask you, of all the things you've learned with CLS, with Amazon, with your communities, what one bit of advice would you give someone who has that same kind of mentality that you had back then, or still have now even?
So I was thinking about this isn't scripted. I didn't know you was going to ask me this, but I
Yeah.
was thinking, what would a question be like if I had to come on and give one? And I think I've already given it, but I'll say it again: is give yourself a chance to make the right decision. And what I mean by that is make your life much slower. And I think everyone is too urgent. Everyone wants to make decisions as quickly as possible. And this Twitter or Facebook or social media space, everyone's like, you need to be urgent. You need to make action. You need to do this. You need to do that really quickly. No, you don't. You need to make the right choice. You need to make the right decision. Doesn't matter how long it takes you. Obviously, if it takes you 6 years to make a decision, then that's the wrong decision because it's taking you so long. But there's always an end point to that. But my point is, make your life so that you can make the right decision. You've slowed your life down to the point where if you make just one good decision a day, you've made 365 good decisions in a year. Times that by how many years you're in business, and you're successful. People watching this might just see that soundbite. I know it's not as simple as what I've just said in terms of actually going and doing the actions. But if you are struggling with trying to manage so many different things, that's your answer. Slow down what you're doing. Try and remove some things that you shouldn't be doing or you feel is important to do, but you really shouldn't be doing. Like a business owner shouldn't be going onto an Excel spreadsheet and loading in one transaction after another. Like someone else can be doing that. And these are the things that I'm saying. Put yourself in a position where you're only making one or two good decisions a day. And that's what I wished that I had the hindsight to do when I was running my businesses is I was caught up in this mindset of let's do everything at such a high speed and the rest will work itself out. It doesn't work itself out. It just gets harder.
Yeah.
And if you
That to-do list just doesn't stop growing, does it?
never stops, never once did it stop. The more staff members I got, the more problems I had. And that was just, I don't know why the fans arts come on, but your problems just amplify the longer you go in business. And all you've got to do is just say to yourself, okay, how do I make this day a success? Well, let's just make one good decision a day. And that is it. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, really and truly. That's the advice that I've taken from all of the experiences. If I only did one good thing a day, I've done something good.
Jeff Bezos does that, doesn't he?
Yeah, all he needs to do is get into a boardroom and make one good decision. I mean, he could just make one good decision a year, to be honest. But The point is sort of similar. I think you're right that he looks at, as long as we make one good decision a day and it's the benefit of the customer, everything will work itself out. And
Yeah.
I think I was the opposite. I thought, do more of what I'm doing and it will work itself out, but actually do less, but make the right choices.
Yeah.
So yeah, that to answer your question, that's my advice.
There's a bit of a headspace you get into, isn't there, where you're making so many decisions, you're doing so much. You kind of get to a point where even if you've accomplished more in one day than most humans ever could imagine is possible, still doesn't feel like enough. Whereas if you scale back and have that mentality, I just need to make one good decision. When you make that decision and you've done that thing, you've succeeded in your day. You don't have that same kind of pressure that you need to do more. You need to do more.
Yeah, exactly. And if you chase your day by a to-do list, in my opinion, this isn't going to paintbrush everyone and everyone's the same, but how I felt was when I tried to navigate my day with a to-do list, I always struggled because there will always be days where you write 10 things and you don't even get one chalked off the list because things happen with your day. Something happens, a bad thing happens, and you have to try and solve it that weren't even on your list. Whereas if you say, okay, I've got one good decision to make, if I've made that or I've made more, then great, I've had a successful day and I can actually shut the laptop, I can shut Discord and I can go and speak to my missus and actually be there for her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the one life lesson or business lesson that I've taken out of everything that I've learned.
Nice. I think that's a really good place to end it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really good. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. It's been really nice having you here, mate. It's really good to see you again. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Cool. Charlie, I'll see you later.
Cheers.